I've been teaching for 5 years. This is my 5th year. Seems like just in your shoes. I was in a Catholic school for 3 years. I'm sorry, this is my 6th year. Oh my God. 2 years in a private school, and now I'm in charter schools. I know a lot of people have their views about charter schools. I did too. It's long hours, but when you put in the work and you see your children grow, I've only had my kids since August, and 60% of my kids passed their quiz today. I was so excited. When you see that growth in your kids, you get really excited. And my biggest advice to you is to network. I have kept in touch with Dr. Leibman. I still call him when I have interviews. So use Dr. Leibman and Dr. Gia as resources, and network as much as possible. That's my advice to you.
That's what I wanted. No, I'm just kidding. Hi, so I'm Carrie. Currently a math teacher for 6th grade, even though I wasn't going to school for that. I was doing 7 through 12, but whatever you can get, you do. Like Amanda said, the fact that you're here is showing us that you want a job, you're invested. Every single thing that Dr. Lyman or Dr. G invites you to, go to it, because that's how you're going to find your future bosses and your future colleagues. My former principal graduated from here as well as hers. I student taught under Christina. Like, you need to keep coming to these things. It's the only way you're going to get your foot in the door. Other than that, the second you have an opportunity, jump on it, because you never know when the next one's going to come. You can always move once you get your foot in the door. You want to get your foot in the door.
All right, my name is Giovanni, and I've been teaching for 6 years, and like my other two, fellow old classmates, I guess I could say, you take advantage of your networking. It's the most important thing. I've taught in 3 schools, and I got the job in all 3 schools through networking, knowing someone or speaking to someone. So please take advantage of the networking and always give it your all wherever you're at. Whether you're enjoying the job or you're not, just give it your all, because you never know who's around, you never know who's looking. So that's the best advice I can give you.
My name is Jessica Schrank. This is my 5th year teaching. I'm currently in a school called All City Leadership Academy. Recently, we just got recognized for being the 18th best high school in the city and the 410th best high school in the country, so I'm really proud of that. Prior to that, though, my first school that Dr. Leibman actually got my job in closed, phased out. And one thing that I learned from that experience, and in speaking with my fellow panel mates, is the need to be flexible in education nowadays. Every year is different, especially when it comes to how you're rated, the things they're looking for in the classroom. It changes from year to year. So once you adapt to one system, it changes. So my advice would be to be flexible, and most importantly, to be involved. I work crazy hours. I'm the counselor. I have 5 classes a day, and I teach and I do everything. But at the same time, when my principal needs something, and per session is $42 an hour, so it's worth it, he comes to me first, and I'm always the one in the back of his mind who he remembers and he goes to for things. And that works in my benefit when I'm being rated, and it works in my benefit when I want something personally. So if you're not somebody who's willing to put in that effort, that determination, that flexibility, that adaptability, and that dedication, then you have to rethink your career. And lastly, in speaking about fighting for your rights, I actually went to the superintendent's office, which no one ever does, when they were going to phase out my school, and I questioned the superintendent, who, if anybody knows what that means, her boss is the chancellor. And I really wanted her to explain to me why it was they were closing our school. Long story short, she's recently my superintendent all over again, and she remembers my face and knows that now that I'm tenured, I'm going to say whatever I want. And once you're in that position, it's a great position to be in, but it takes that flexibility and that involvement to get there. That's it.
Good evening, my name is Jamin Harris. I've been teaching for 2 months at MS 181, so basically I'm fresh out the box. One piece of advice I could give you is I learned it from Dr. Lyman about 2 years ago. It's not what you teach the kids, it's how you make them feel. And if you make them feel that you care, they're going to come to class every day. So just bring that emotion to class every day, engage them, and they're going to show the world for you.
That's great.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Petrizzo. Like Jamin said, I'm new, right out May. I graduated in May. I'm teaching 2 months already. I got the job through Dr. Lyman. Funny story, I never took a class with Dr. Lyman, so that just shows how much I networked here. I was here long hours. I ran track here. I was here every day for 12, 13 hours, and I met Dr. Lyman through Kappa, and when a position opened at Holy Angels Catholic Academy, a teacher was moving, he recommended me for the job. And he didn't have to do that because, like I said, I never even had him in a class, so there was a lot of other students who he could have gave the job to, but he gave it to me. So thank you for that. Another piece of I would just like to say for an advice, I would say don't be picky in your job search. I know a lot of people have their feelings on Catholic and private and public, but I feel I'm 22 years old and I have a job. I'm lucky to just say that. I know a lot of my friends who are still working who are still working just to an internship or still working just to get to where they want to be there to fulfill their dream, and I'm already living my dream. So don't be picky. If there's a job in a public school, Catholic school, charter school, take it. Take it. What's the worst that can happen? You could always further your career. It's a step in the right direction. So I think that is definitely good advice. Don't be scared, it's Catholic school, I don't know this, I've never worked in a Catholic school, or I've never worked in a charter school. But it doesn't matter. It's a step in the right direction, no matter how you look at it. And I think lastly, be prepared for long hours, definitely. Because I've sat in my classroom already, and I'm not an emotional person, and I've cried in that classroom because it is very overwhelming, and you don't know protocols, you don't know rules, and it's the routines you have to get used to, and just be prepared for long hours. I was lucky that I was already prepared for that because I ran track here. I was used to doing things on weekends and getting up early for class and then going to practice. But just be prepared for that. I think that's the most important thing. So don't be picky and be prepared for long hours. Those are my 2 things.
Hi, my name is Rania. I just graduated in January, and I work at Booty Junior High School with this one. I think Dr. Lyman can attest to this. I was going crazy before I graduated because I didn't know if I was going to get a job. I didn't know where. And then luckily I got 2 offers. I got Midwood and I got Booty, and he was pushing me towards Booty, and I'm so happy that he did. It's like she said, it's insane hours. I'm there almost till 7, if not every day. And I was just telling her, and she was shocked. You have to get used to it, and it's amazing. Like, you just love it, and you have to love what you do, because if you don't, then you should just stop, because these kids are going to drive you crazy, but in the best way possible. Like, I've gone to her room maybe 4 times now and just crying my eyes out, and I just I don't know what to do. But you have to love it. Also like Jamin said, if you show fear, they take it. But if you show love, they accept it. They feed off of it, because you have to understand, some of these kids don't have that at home. A lot of these kids come from the rough backgrounds, and to come to your classroom and just to feel secure, it's an amazing feeling. And if they come back to you and they want to talk to you and you see that, you just love it. I don't know. I love it. I don't know. That's it.
Hi, my name is Christina Liberta. I graduated here about 5 years ago, and like Dr. Liebman said, I went straight to Booty Junior High School for a program which was called School of One, and it was all computer-based technology math. So as you can tell, there's been 19 students after me, and actually Carrie Leisman was actually my student teacher when I was at the school, and I've actually had 3 other student teachers from St. Francis since then. And even though Carrie is not at our school, she was offered a position at our school, and every student teacher that I've had after that has actually worked at the school. So you never know who's going to be able to help you down the road. And you could be sitting next to your colleagues now, because I can tell you actually just from Ranya's year and the year before that, they have about 5 or 6 of their classmates from St. Francis that are working with them now. I call it the St. Francis frat house. That's how I feel. But honestly, at this point, I'm actually on the way to get my admin license, and I'm looking to further my career. And you should never stop. You should never just accept just teaching as just where you should be at. You should always go further for schooling, and there's always room to learn, and there's always room to learn more. And what's really great about the kids is I actually teach hip-hop after school, and it's so nice to see the kids in a different element, because sometimes we forget, like, yeah, they don't do their homework, yeah, they come in, they don't do well, but it's nice always to see them always in a different element. And my biggest thing and my advice is to any chance that you get to do anything in the school, you should be there, because the principal will always remember your face and always remember that you're there. And I could tell you that I've gotten very far in the last 5 years, and the reason why is because my principal always sees my face. And I make sure that any event that is going on in my school, that I make sure I'm there. And not only do I have the respect for my principal, but the kids see that. And especially events that the kids are going to, or they're playing the flute or the violin or they're dancing, and if the kids see you come, the respect in the classroom is so much more different. And it helps with classroom management. And one more advice is make sure that not only do you know the subject, but that you know how to run a classroom. And classroom management is the biggest thing to keep your classroom running.
So this is for all of you. Do you have to turn in lesson plans to anyone?
No.
No.
Yeah, I do. I have like the book, the lesson plan book, and my principal collects my book every week, every Friday. I don't know, she does it for all, so I thought originally it was just me, but she does, it's the whole school, she does it. There's a teacher there for 35 years, and she still has to submit hers. I think it depends on the principal. My principal's very strict with organization and how your plan book looks. So yes, it's not as, I would say it's not as detailed as what I used to do in college when I would submit it, but, you know, your objectives there, your page numbers are there, your worksheets, all that is still there. So I do, yes, every Friday I have to submit my plan book.
Can I go? Sorry. In my school, we have like this, it looks like a little mailbox, like when you come in the classroom, and it's for your daily lesson plan. So every day they expect your lesson plan to be in it. Not gonna lie, sometimes I forget. But if like my assistant principal comes in and I don't have a lesson plan in there, we built a relationship that he's gonna be like, are you kidding me? You better get that in there, because if this principal walks in and it's not there, she's gonna be really aggravated. That's me.
Go ahead.
Okay. One thing when you work for the city is administrator, technically, and this is, by that I mean if you're not tenured, you have no rights. But when you do become tenured, you technically don't have to have your lesson plan right then and there. You have 24 hours, from my understanding, until you have to submit it.
And with the new contract, too.
Yeah, so it's going back to the idea of knowing your rights. They can't persecute you for not having your lesson plan right then and there if you work in a city school, but you do have to present it within 24 hours. That's the city, standard.
And they can't tell you what to put in it.
Yes.
At my school, we all have to have our lesson plans also at a folder at the door. So, and we do get observed every day. So when they come in, they take your lesson plan and they make sure that your lesson plan is, basically complies with the lesson that you're teaching in class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next question is, what was the hardest thing that you had to overcome as a new teacher?
The hours.
Along with the hours,
It's
the
just.
amount of grading. If you like your weekends, kiss your weekends goodbye. I'm telling you right now, especially if you're doing adolescent, forget about it. It's going to be at least, you only have one good weekend out of the month. Plan it, all right? Because you're going to be grading work. I have 150 kids, and it's all about planning. If you don't want to grade a lot, don't give a lot of homework. That's the honest truth. Don't do it.
It's really true, though.
You want the kids to be, do you want the kids to be busy, or do you want to have your time? It's all about planning. You gotta learn how to manage the social life and the work life. I'm still learning it. Like, I have a paper coming from my class. I'm giving the paper it's due right before Thanksgiving weekend. so I can knock it out before then and have my Thanksgiving weekend for myself. If I were to make it due right before Thanksgiving weekend, I'm spending the whole weekend, the whole breaks grading papers. So it's all about planning and balancing.
Yeah, timing is a really big aspect of it. Like, I didn't do that my first month, and I was there almost every day till 7. I was just going insane.
We were just having this conversation in the car.
In
I
the
was yelling
car
at her. I was
on
like,
the
what are you
way
doing?
here. Yeah, like I got to the point where I leave at 4. Like you said, my first homework, I showed it to her. She was like, "Are you insane?" I gave them like 2 pages back to back, and I was grading it for like an hour, just one class. So then, exactly, just timing and planning. You need to get it right, and it takes time.
And you have to remember, too, the kids have lives out of the school building also.
Yeah.
Like, just like you do, they do, too. So you have to know that they go home. Some of these kids could be taking care of their siblings. Some of these kids might not go home to a good situation. Homework is definitely not something you want to punish with. It's supposed to be more educational.
Okay. All right, I'll go. I had 2 things, I think. One thing was, well, Dr. Liebman mentioned it, so I guess I'll discuss it, about classroom management. You kind of have to find your happy medium with being a monster and being, like, walked all over, especially when you're in middle school or high school. It's very easy for them to take advantage of you. So finding that happy medium. And the next thing was kind of letting go, because with classroom management, you kind of want to control everything that goes on there. But when you let them be more independent, they learn better and they are able to do more. And for instance, I just recently did something called the Socratic discussion method, where kids planned what they were going to say, present to one another their ideas, just on something simple, like what does it take to survive in the world, using some textual evidence. And I completely set back the entire period and let them 6th graders take the reins. And it was the best lesson I ever had, and I didn't speak the entire period. So, like, learning to let go. But that takes time and that takes practice. Once you find that happy medium, making them more independent makes your life easier and makes them grow really exponentially.
I agree. I'm sorry.
No,
I
go
agree
ahead.
with what she just said. I actually did a lesson last week, and luckily I got observed during it because it went really well. I probably talked for 4 minutes out of a 90-minute block, and that's really hard for me. If you know me, this doesn't stop. But as a first, second-year teacher, you think everything needs to be perfect and that kids need to be silent and working. But it's not, and that's not even what the administration wants to see anymore. You need to be able to not get crazy, but you need to be able to let them work in groups and try things out and fail and wonder why they messed up and let their classmates help them figure out the right way to do it.
To build off of that, my curriculum in my charter school is based off of discourse. Every part of our lesson, the kids have a discourse and they share what they did, and it's such a great way for kids to learn from each other. And you can see when they're listening to the other kids' strategies, how they're like, you see the kids go back and try it. And it takes the pressure off of you to let them learn from each other. It's a really great way for them to learn because they really do want to learn from each other.
Also, be open-minded about criticism.
Yes.
You're going to get a lot of criticism, but most of that is going to be positive criticism, just so you can become a better teacher. And if you don't take that in the right way, it can break you down. So just learn to use that criticism as something that you can use to become that teacher, that ideal teacher that you want to be.
And to piggyback off what he said, when you get your job and you're in school, go into all the senior teachers' classrooms. Steal ideas. That's the best thing to do, steal ideas.
Pinterest.
Collaborate.
Yeah, collaborate.
Pinterest. Pinterest.
I'm always in, I have this lady next to me, name is Stewart. I'm always in her room. She's another social studies teacher. I'm looking at her lesson plan, looking at the project she did, what's the posters on the wall. I'm getting ideas. Some things are going to work, some things are not going to work. But it's always good to, just to see new things. So when you get to your school, even if it's not even your content, I went into a literacy room. They got this thing like a stoplight. So at the end of a lesson, the kids go to the stoplight and put a Post-it in green, red, and what's the other? Yellow.
Yellow.
So yellow is in between green, I got it, red, I have no understanding. So I saw that in the literacy room. I put that into my classroom, and now I got posters all over the place. But it works. So just go into different classrooms. Don't be afraid of staff members. Just poke around. Some people are willing to help you. So like he said, just try new things.
I think for me, for the being so new, I think the parents were the worst thing for me to get over. I'm telling you, they destroyed me the first couple. They really did. I don't know if it's because I look so young, and they were like, why is a high school girl teaching my 6-year-olds? I teach first grade, so I don't know if that was their perception of me. Oh, how is she even capable of teaching? But I am. But they think they have the teacher degree. So I went to my principal's office, and she said, you basically have to just stand your ground and tell them, like, this is the way you're running your classroom. They're not the teacher. They're not the educator. So you need to really stand your ground. Don't let them take advantage of you, because they think they'll come in with notes. Oh, you should do this, and about anything, especially in the little grades. You're their mom too. So anything, sit my kid. I had a note the other day. Sit my kid a certain way for his photograph, for his school picture. I said. I don't even know what I responded to that one. But just don't let them take advantage of you, because just in a back-to-school night, I was getting swamped with questions and questions, and finally, I just had to say, just let this year play out. They were asking, like, what I'm doing in March and for a project. Just don't let them take advantage of you. So I think that's, like, the most important thing, I had to overcome, definitely.
Okay. What do you do when you're going to be absent?
Plan. Do not leave nothing on your desk for your class. You need to plan, because then you will come back to a destroyed room. Your kids will be insane. You need to have something planned. Like, whether it's a worksheet or group work. I mean, kids love doing group work. Give them a worksheet to work on. Like, I know I'm going to be out soon. We have iReady. They love the computer. I put them on iReady. 2 periods. They're happy. They're learning. They're working with technology, and they're excited with all the pictures that they get to see. You need to have something ready for you before you leave.
I can actually speak about this more because, I'll share. I have a medical condition, so I actually recently found out, I get sick often, and I don't know exactly when I'm going to be sick, so I set up a protocol with my kids in the classroom. And last year also, I went on a lot of PDs, so that's professional development out of the building. So my kids, I've had them now for 2 years, one of my classes. So I've pretty much set up a protocol in my classroom when I'm absent, and even if it's uncalled for, they didn't know I wasn't going to be there, they know to check on the computer, and I have Ngrade, which is an online grade book, and they're able to message me. So I told them I would always message them at home and kind of do an online classroom with them, and they would know to get the computer, sit down, and then do whatever work I had planned for them. Also, if they know I'm really not there and they never got a message from me, they know there's plenty of different protocols around the classroom that they can do. So like she said, we have a lot of online technology things that are in our classroom. So they can go on iReady, which is all math technology online, or iExcel, where they could just practice different types of questions. So absences are going to happen. Before you are actually tenured, I suggest that you don't be absent because the superintendents look for it. But in my case, where I have no choice sometimes, there are plenty of ways, but you have, once again, it goes back to what Jessica said, you have to have classroom management skills, because they should be giving the sub more respect than they give you, and you have to make that a protocol before you even ever become absent in the classroom.
I just wanted to ask if you guys could kind of pass the mics over, kind of shift them over a bit so that people on the end can be heard. Thank you. Okay, so the next question is, what is the student makeup of your classroom?
Can you repeat that? What is that?
The student makeup. Okay, so I teach 3 different classes. I have 2 8th grade classes and 1 6th grade class. So one of my classes is half gen ed and half IEPs, but they're not IEPs that are ICT kids, which is when you have 2 teachers in the room. I have kids who are just in sets, which is they get ELA and math help, 1 extra period, or a push-in or a pull-out. So I have that in the morning, and then I have a whole class of Ls. So in my building, what we do is we pull the Ls out, and they have special classes that are by themselves. So I have 1 full class of Ls, and then my last double period is my 6th grade, or ICT, where it's me and another teacher in the room that's special ed, and I work with those. And graphically, I have all different types of students in the school. Booty is made up of Chinese, Spanish, Russian, Arabic. My Ls range from Uzbeki. My first year that actually Carrie taught with me, we actually had 12 different languages in the classroom. And I actually had 35 kids in my 8th grade class that year that Kelly and I split. So every year is different. Every year is crazy. You just have to be very open to all different types of students and all different types of classrooms. Because I mean, I have a math license and I got a special ed license, but I was never taught how to teach ELs until I recently went for PDs. And I've been teaching ELs for the past 4 out of the 5 years. So you never know what you're actually going to be good in either until you get there. Because my school was actually not meeting AYP for their ELs the first year I got them. And because I've been working with them for the past 4 years, we got ourselves out of trouble with our L's in mathematics. And we've developed a whole new program for the L's for math.
Do you mind telling us what L's are?
Oh, sorry, English language learners, my bad.
So this question was more specifically to know about the makeup as far as like ELLs and struggling students, because we're learning a lot about that in our classes, if that makes more sense.
So, my school has I have a really small school, it only has about like 300 kids in it, but I would say about 40% of my school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, about 40% of my students have, not my students, whole school, have IEPs. Whether that means they're in an ICT class or they're in self-contained, which is not what it's called anymore, I don't think. Or, like, I have the same thing as Christina, one of my classes, out of the 25 kids in it, 12 of them get sets. So I have a teacher who pushes in with us 3 periods a week, but they need to see her 8. So I don't know when she catches up with them the other times, but.
Did you want to answer the question too?
No. AYP is annual yearly progress.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it, yeah. I just wanted to give you guys a little history about my school. My school is an international school, so I would say like 98% of the students at my school have less than 5 years in the country. So it's a SIFE school, and a lot of the teachers came in there not knowing what SIFE students were. It's the same thing, you know, it's like ELL students, you know, English language learners. And you're differentiating your lessons a lot in scaffolding, so because you have to please the advanced students, you know, the students that are in the middle, and the low-level students. So it can be a difficult task, but it's something that you'll learn as you go along, and also go into PDs, which is what a lot of teachers do when they first start.
So SIFE is for kids that are English language learners who don't speak any English, that have never actually gotten schooling also in their country. So they've come in with no knowledge or ever being into a school. And think about like a 6th or 7th or even a 9th grader coming to school with never going to school, with children who have been in school for the past 14 years.
Right, so it's SIFE students with interrupted formal education. They've never really been in a school more than a year.
And they could also put, I'm in a secondary school, so it's 6 through 12. There's this kid, Alexandro, who he literally speaks no English, and he's in 12th grade, and we have to get him to graduate this year. So going back to that ideal of being able to adapt, thankfully I speak Spanish, so I can communicate with him and many of our staff members, because we're 90-something% Hispanic. Almost everyone is Hispanic or speaks Spanish, but the few who don't learn how to adapt and learn how to run to the teachers who do, so they could communicate with the kids that they just randomly put in our school. He's probably more fit to be in your school than ours, but it happens, and that's what happens when you work with the city or you just work in New York City in general. There's everything here. It's truly a melting pot. When you go to the schools, you see how versatile the city is and how dynamic you have to be.
Okay. Was there any extracurricular activity at FSC that came in handy once you started teaching?
I was on the dance team.
I was on the track team for 4 years. I run my school, my principal requires every teacher to run a club after school. So obviously I had to do something with sports, because what else was I gonna do? So me and the PE teacher, we do a sports club. So he did, basketball instruction. I've done a little bit of every sport, so I kind of know how to instruct. So like one class we do like basketball, like after school, and then like next week I'll do track, and it's good to collaborate. So definitely helps with the track background and being an athlete. So
I do it all the time. And I love it because you make a lot of extra money. You know, I do soccer in the fall, which I get 120 hours for. And then I run weightlifting clubs, soccer clubs, basketball clubs, volleyball clubs. And the kids love it. The kids love it. And like someone mentioned before, they do respect you in the classroom because of those extracurricular activities.
So the next question is, what were the reasons you were particularly hired at the school that you're at right now? What do you think?
Lyman.
Beyond Dr. Leibman.
That's it, it's Dr. Lyman.
Dr. Leibman.
To be honest, they told me I was hired because of my interview. They hired me. I went for the interview. The interview was really intense. I sat in front of 3 people like this. They were here, I was there, and they asked me, I was in a 45-minute interview, and they jotted down everything I said on a pen and paper, everything. And they were asking me assessment questions, classroom management, every kind of question to do with education they asked me. And I was sitting there, I was sweating the whole interview because I had just gotten out. You know, I was 21 at the time, so I was like so nervous. And when I left the interview, they said, "Oh, we've never had a 21-year-old come in there with such great personality and speak so great and so educated to these questions." And they said, "Oh, we'll be in contact." I got home 45 minutes later. They called me. I was hired, and they said, "We hired you because of your interview." And my principal wasn't at my interview because she had some medical. She had a surgery or something. So I was hired by a board of directors. They hired me without even consulting her, just off of my interview. So another advice: ace your interview and use your personality because that gets you the job too.
In my first school, I was hired because everybody was running out of the door because they were really afraid of the kids. And even though I'm 100 pounds and 5 feet, for some reason I have no fear, which is a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. We had a lot of gang violence, a lot of crazy things going on. In fact, I think the old school was the first school to ever have a metal detector. But the school I'm in now, I was hired because I have, for 2 reasons. Because I have my counseling and English license, so they knew that they could use and abuse me as much as possible. And because I speak another language. So sometimes some of the things that you bring culturally or just from your background, make sure that you highlight those things in your resume as well, including the extracurricular point that you guys made, because sometimes it's not just about your formal training, it's who you are as a person, like in your case with the dance. They want to see somebody who is very dynamic and has a lot to bring to the table other than they know how to teach, because a lot of people know how to teach, but what else can you do for me is really what a principal wants to know. That's it, I think. I don't know.
Honestly, my last 2 jobs out of my 3 jobs have been through people I know. But I would definitely say for the second position that I had, I was definitely more confident and more relaxed on my interview. And I feel like if you go into your interview confident and relaxed and knowing your stuff, like that will definitely help you on the interview. So again, networking though. It's the biggest thing. 2 out of my 3 jobs came from knowing people, so.
What helped for me, and Jessica and Amanda can also say, when we actually graduated, there was actually a hiring freeze.
Yeah.
So actually, all of us that did get jobs, we were very lucky because there were no jobs at that time. But when I was student teaching, I actually went in very early in January, and my student teaching didn't just consist of the day. The School of One program actually was the after school. So I actually had to stay there from 8 all the way till 5 o'clock for my student teaching. So I actually finished my hours very early. So what my boss really liked was when they implemented the School of One in the classroom in May and June during the day, I actually worked May and June of my student teaching as a teacher, not getting paid for the last 2 months of my student teaching. So we already graduated at this point, and because I put in all those hours extra than I needed to, I actually didn't get hired as of June. I actually got called after the first week of September, and he told me the minute that position opens, you'll be the first one I call. He called me that first weekend. I started that next Tuesday with a full program, and I have been there since. So any extra things that you can do, and especially during your student teaching time, because at that point, you're just a student teacher. So when you start your student teaching, you want to make sure that your face is known just as much as the teachers are. And if the principal knows your name, that's a good thing, because that's what you want. You want the APs and the principals to know. And I worked very, very closely with my AP she was actually the math coach back then, and she's the one that highly recommended me to my principal. And, people talk. And just like Kerry and Vanya are in their positions, I can tell you every time that anybody from St. Francis has come to Booty, Mr. D'Angelo has asked me, what do you think? So everybody talks, and everybody sees what's going on. So even if the principal doesn't see you, your cooperating teacher, the teacher next door, the teacher you have lunch with, you never know who's watching and who's talking. So you gotta always be, ready to go at all times.
Adding to what she's saying, it's kind of doesn't really go, but everybody talks, not only about the good things. So until you are tenured, keep your mouth closed, because the second you say, oh, I don't like that teacher or that one, you don't know who's friends, you don't know who's the boss, you don't know anything, and they will go run, and they will make it a big deal. So, a little piece of advice, don't talk. Just say yes and do what they want.
To feed up what Christina said, when I student taught, I finished in November. I stayed till June. As soon as I graduated, I got my, subbing license, and I was there every day. Extracurricular activities, I was there. They had stuff after school, I was there. I was constantly in their face. And it got to the point where he was like, I don't even need your resume, just show up in September.
Yeah, we never got interviewed at Booty.
Yeah.
I've never actually sat in a formal interview other than the ones that we've done here. If you're ready to go and they see that you're ready to go, you skip over that. And I can tell you, at our school, our principal is everywhere. You're going to see him everywhere that you go. He does not sit in his office, and he's not shy. So, so you never know where you're going to be and, how it's going to work out.
Okay. What do you do if your lesson plan doesn't work out the way you expected?
It happens all the time.
Try it again on the next class.
I think I know for me, I teach kindergarten, so you kind of just have to adjust and go with it. Sometimes you go off what the kids are saying, and it's a better lesson than you planned for. You just have to roll with it and figure out what your kids need the most, and it takes time, but you just go with it. It doesn't always work out, trust me. But you just go with it.
Like she said, you just go with it. I had numerous times where I have this great lesson planned out. It's going to work this way. I'm going to break into the group instruction this time. I'm going to bring out the assessment hint. It breaks apart. It falls apart. You got to improvise. Somebody may walk in. I had administration walk into the room, talk to the kids about something, and they off track. And then you have to get them back. You have announcements. So many things happen that throws your lesson
Fire
off.
drills.
And
Lockdown drills.
So I plan something, then I would leave time, or I'll find other things to incorporate into the lesson or take out. So if a kid finished early, I don't want the kid having nothing to do because he's gonna be a distraction. I got something for him to do. You gotta anticipate. Always gotta anticipate something.
No plan goes the way you want it. And that's it. You could lesson plan all day long, all night long. It's not going that way.
Yeah.
It's not.
My 5 years,
yeah.
South.
5 years, it doesn't go that way. The kids are unpredictable, especially middle school.
My first lesson that went south, I think I called you or Napoli, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, these kids are just gonna kill me. I was like, I don't know what to do. I didn't have no backup. And then after that, I was ready with everything and anything that could have for them, whether it was manipulatives, whether it was a worksheet that they can work on together, whether it was a computer. Always have backup. It's a key thing with these kids. Because once they're done and they don't like what they're learning or they're not comfortable with it, you'll know it.
Actually, I'll never forget my actual lesson that Dr. Leibman came in for when you came to observe me. Anytime you make a mistake or you have no idea what's going on, make believe you know what's going on. It doesn't matter. He came in to observe me one of my first lessons. I had no idea what I wrote on the board. It was not correct in any way possible. And I was student teaching in honors. So they were really laughing at me. But it didn't matter because I just went with it. And that's what I do now still. I just go with it. It is what it is. You even commented on it. That's actually what you commented. Yeah, honestly, like, kids are predictable. Life is predictable, especially nowadays with these fire drills, the lockdown drills. Like, I mean, like, just recently in our building, we had a lockdown drill because a student was missing. Like, you're in the middle of a class lesson, lockdown, you close the doors, lock the doors, you're hiding in the corner, and there goes your whole lesson. Like, and then there's another day the next day. So you just got to know every day's a new day. Yes, do we have to take standardized tests? Yes, you know, is there a goal? Yes. But at the same time, like, if the kids are learning and they get something out of it, it doesn't matter if it was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a half an hour, it took 10 days. We're here to teach, and we're here for them to learn. And that's really what they should get out of it.
And don't be afraid to find a veteran teacher. Well, not always a veteran, but somebody who knows what they're doing in your school. My first year in my school, I was like, I had a great ELA teacher across the hall from me. One of our students actually student taught with her. And I was petrified of her because she looked like she knew exactly what she was doing. She was always like had the kids managed to the T, and I was just like, I'm scared of her. And my second year, I was like, okay, you need to man up and you need to go over there and you need to ask her questions because you have questions. She's not my best friend, and I feel like I've learned so much from her. Just don't be scared, because every teacher went through what we went through, what you're going to go through. You're going to cry a lot. You're going to enjoy your job, but you're going to cry a lot. Someone needs to tell you sorry. But you need to find someone in the building who you can look to for help. Don't like single yourself out and hide in your room all alone, because then you won't have fun. It's going to be your new home. So find a friend, make a friend, just enjoy it.
And in my experience, I would say about 95% of people in your building will want to help you. There are some places where it is a little bit competitive, I feel sometimes, but for the most part, people are going to help you, and if you approach them in the right way and just show them that you want to learn from them, they're going to help you.
I mean, I can tell you at our school, my whole math department, like the entire math department, we're like closer than close. Like, I can tell you, we're 20 of us, and under me, there's 10 new, I think it's like 10 of you, or like 7 of you, new girls that are underneath me. And I can tell you, we're like one big happy family. And if you have that closeness, the day goes by so much better, the planning goes by so much easier, and the collaboration is amazing, because you really learn when you can collaborate with other teachers. Because you learn nothing when you're doing it by yourself. And that same idea you need to bring into your classroom with your students. Okay, when the kids are doing things by themselves, they're never getting it. When the kids are working together in groups, it is such a difference, and you'll see.
So the next question is, do you have to collaborate with other teachers a lot? And if you don't get along, what if you don't get along?
Get over it.
Yeah, you have to work together. There was a recent issue on my team, and we just kind of approached it in a professional way. And if you don't work with other people, you're going to create so much more work for yourself. So even if you don't get along with someone, just push it to the side and think about what you're there for. Think about that you're trying to work with other people, because even though you may have a great idea, someone's idea may work better in your classroom. So it's better to collaborate.
I teach one class on Fridays where there's 3 adults in the room. Me, a speech teacher, and a sets teacher. And they need to know what I'm doing, or else they can't help. So I take their ideas for how I can help those specific kids that they're targeting. But just because a kid is receiving sets doesn't mean the whole class isn't going to benefit from it. So there's a period every week where the 3 of us have to, no one's forcing us to, but for the benefit of our kids, we have to sit down and we have to plan out what we're doing.
At my school, you have to collaborate with other teachers. We have to meet with all the teachers in our grade 3 times a week. So, and that has to be during one of our prep periods. So, and there you talk about interdisciplinary lessons, how you can engage science and phys ed together, whatever it is. But you're gonna have to work together with all your teachers.
I don't know. Maybe I'm different with this. In my old school, there was this huge contrast between the seasoned teachers and the new teachers, and they weren't very welcoming. And the truth of the matter is in my current school, there's definitely some crazy teachers, which I don't know. I wouldn't trust them with my kids, but I don't have any, so thankfully they're not responsible for them. But the truth of the matter is no school has idealistic staff. And anybody who tells you that everybody in their school is amazing is probably lying, or I want to work there. There's always going to be the one or two naysayers, or the people who are in a PD or in an inquiry meeting or in a grade level meeting, because we have tons of meetings, who doesn't want to be there or doesn't look out for the benefit of the kids. And the truth of the matter is you got to take that with a grain of salt and just know that for the most part, everybody else in your school is doing their job, and you have to do your job. And those people who don't want to be there and don't want to collaborate with the rest of the staff and do their very best or share their knowledge, that translates to their work with the kids. And one thing about children, which is very interesting, when you go from like going to school in St. Francis to like working in a school, is kids are more perceptive than adults. And when the certain adults who aren't professional and who don't take things seriously and don't care as much, the kids know it. And so on your end, you just have to make sure you're doing your part. If you have another staff member or a colleague who isn't doing their part, whatever they do in the dark eventually comes to light. And I've seen it happen, and if there's somebody you don't want to work with, you just have to know that's part of your job. Like it or not, you're going to have to work with somebody at some point that you don't like, regardless of the field of interest you go into. It's just par for the course.
Okay. If you could change one aspect about the profession that you didn't like, what would it be and why?
Danielson. Oh.
You're not gonna elaborate?
You want me to go? No, I mean, I was just kind of kidding. I like my rate. I mean, it's annoying, but. So, I don't know why. I get petrified anyone comes in my room. My principal, my assistant principal, or like this morning when I had 8 people in my room because we're in middle school and we started a RTI program, and they invited all the principals from the district to come watch us do it. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't teach ELA. What? But I get nervous when people come in my room. So you're getting evaluated. Like, you're keeping your job based on how you are the 4 times someone comes in your room throughout the year. You're there for 180 days. They're coming to see you 4 times.
For 15 minutes.
It's going to depend. Your job's depending on that. So if you're not nervous, that's congratulations to you. But I get really nervous, and that's just, I don't know. If I had to change something, it'd be that.
I would say the constant changing. Like, there's just little things that they keep
Talking
changing. Oh, okay. I would say the constant changing. Like, for example, they was a learning objective. They just changed to the learning intention. They don't change the meaning behind it, but they just change the word. And it gets confusing for the kids, because then the kids are like, well, this is the same thing. I understand, but we're going to call it this now. And it gets frustrating, not only for you, but for them. And you have to constantly stay on top of that. So if that was one thing I can change, it would be that. Constant changing of just words.
To piggyback off what she said, there's like, when you work for the city, there's no communication between the city and the state and the district, and everybody wants different things. So like Danielson is how you're rated, but how you're rated may not be on par with the Common Core curriculum, and the Common Core curriculum is not on par with what the city wants. What is the new city thing where they have all lessons on? What is it called?
Engage.
Engage New York. It looks nothing like Common Core, at least in ELA for 6th grade. And so you have to like figure out what works in your classroom and try to like meet all those areas. But eventually, I hope there's a day where there's a set standard, and it's the same for the city, for the state, for the district, for the school. But it's not like that sometimes, and that gets really frustrating. And they change, like what she said, they change names for everything. It was Danielson, and then tomorrow it'll be Erickson, and then you're like, wait, what? As soon as you adapt to something, they change it. Or they change the name, or they take something away. Danielson used to be 27 frameworks, now it's like 6 or 7 or 8, I don't even know, obviously, that you're rated on. And it's just, next year it'll be 17 again. Like, it just always changes. And no one, like the state and the city and the Common Core, everything's different. So that would be great if people learn to like, hey, we all want the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
We'll get comfortable.
Once you get comfortable, it's gone. It changes, and
Yeah.
you're just like,
So the next question is, what are some examples of issues where you might run into problems with parents? And are they mainly academic or sometimes value, social, identity, moral based?
I had that I didn't give enough homework to first graders. That was one that I was confused about. So then I gave them more homework. I went to my principal. I said, how do I approach these issues? She was just, you need to, like she said, you need to explain to them why, you don't give homework 5 days a week or whatever. So I did end up giving them more because it was becoming like they were just on top of everything I did, very nitpicky about everything. Like I said, I think it's because I am new, so they were just, anything I did was like a problem. But I just went to her the whole time. What should I do in this scenario? What should I do in this scenario? I have to say things have calmed down, so I have to say maybe I am doing something right because they haven't been hassling me about everything. But in the beginning, it was just thinking they're the teacher. Why is this one doing this? I'm little grade, so I get more of, why did Johnny hit Polly? I don't know, I wasn't at lunch, you get more of those too. So you just kind of have to, I would say, keep it brief. Don't overdo it when you're writing back to parents. I definitely just keep it brief. Don't get yourself caught up in the whole situation. Just say, okay, well, we can have a meeting if you want to come in, or I don't know about this, I have to talk to another teacher, and bye. Like, don't elaborate, because then you just get yourself caught.
I'd say you want the parents on your side, because if something goes wrong, the parent's always going to win. So you want them on your side. So at the beginning of the year, I call home to every single kid's house and introduce myself, and you get a lot of, wow, I've never had this before. You're the first teacher to call and introduce yourself for something good. And then, like that, they're like, oh, I like this teacher. You want them to respect you, so you need to do things to give them a reason to like you.
And to piggyback off that, my principal had us make like 10 positive phone calls a week for the first couple weeks. And I think it's really helped us get the parents involved. So anytime we need to call parents and say, your kid needs to work on this, can you help us? It definitely helps. So if you build a relationship with parents, it's going to make your life a lot easier when that negative does come up.
How is the job seeking process different when graduating in January as compared to May?
that is a good question. Get your sub license. That's what I did. Get your sub license. Okay. Get your sub license. Because there's a great probability that you will not get hired. But if you do get your sub license and you do get into a school, get your foot in the door, there's a probability that you will get hired in September. So yeah.
One situation I was in, I graduated in May, and when I graduated in May, the sub teacher portal closed right before graduation. So there was no chance of getting, like, the sub license, getting paid for working in the school you're student teaching at. But don't stop student teaching, because you can get a job at the school you're student teaching at. And even if you can't get a job there, networking. That AP who you working under, they can hook you up with another job somewhere else. So even if you can't get through with the sub teaching, continue working. Even if it's for free, just bite the bullet for the time being. It's going to pay off in the end.
The next question is, how do you find the time to get to know students if they are in your classroom for 1 hour a day, if not shorter? And is there not much of an opportunity for one-on-one conversations?
You have to give up your free time during the day if you want to do that. Unless you teach an after school, like Christina said, she sees her kids a total different light. So a kid who's in math might hate math, make your day miserable, and then when they go to dance, they're probably like the best student she has. Yes. The other day, I had my lunch and I was getting ready to eat, and I was just like, let me go sit in the cafeteria with the kids. I sat down at one of the tables, and 6 kids were like, what are you doing here? Because I have 6th grade, so they're new, they've only been in school for like 2 months. I was like, I'm eating lunch. They're like, with us? And I was like, yeah. They're like, why? I was like, you're my students. I'm not allowed to eat with you. And then before I knew it, I had like 15 other kids like attacking me. And I was just like, all right, you have to give up some of your free time to let them know you care. Because they'll know, because they'll go home and they'll tell their friends. And then they'll go to their other teachers and say, oh, how come you're not like Miss whatever? Or, oh, I love you because that one doesn't care about us. And they'll tell you. And it's kind of heartbreaking when you hear, like, when you see that other teachers aren't doing that. Sorry.
Speaking as a counselor and not as a teacher, I have a lot of teachers come to me when they either want to know something about, well, of course, nothing that's confidential, but when they want to get to know a student, and I can give a different perspective about kids. I know personal things about them. I know how they are outside of a classroom. I know, sometimes I know what ticks them off and what doesn't. So one thing I would say is, aside from what they mentioned, is speaking to teachers they've had in the past, if you have that luxury, or using the resources, i.e. the school counselor or the AP or somebody that they have a relationship with, if they're on a team, their coach. Pursue those avenues, because those people, A, see them outside of the classroom, and B, might have something to tell you that maybe you're not seeing for yourself, even if you do have one-on-one time. Additionally, the getting to know your students is one of the chancellor's new initiatives, so it's important that you do so. So one thing I do in my English 6th grade ELA class is I give them a mock Facebook profiler, because they love that, and I make them make their own like paper version of a Facebook profile, and they put in some maybe useful, sometimes not useful, sometimes appropriate, sometimes not appropriate information about themselves, and that's something that they want to reveal to you that they may not reveal to you in a spoken conversation, because they're afraid. So maybe like having them do that. If you're an ELA teacher, by all means have them journal. That's a really great thing for them, and a good way of them really like telling you things that they can't in the classroom because they're afraid or because it's not, in their nature. So that's something to look into.
I think it's very important to get to know your students. I had a situation where a student had a behavior problem. It was an everyday thing, so I was becoming negative towards that student. Everything I said to that student was negative. Why are you not doing this? Can you get on task? Can you do... So then when I spoke to the guidance and parents, I found that the student had a lot of emotional problems because of family issues. So then after I found that out, I approached the student in a different manner, and I was more positive. I gave him a lot of positive feedback, and the whole relationship just did a 360-degree turn, and he became one of my favorite students by the end of the year. So it's very important to get to know your students because you never know what they're going through.
I actually had my first 2 years that I was there, I actually had a student who, by the time he graduated, he was 17, and I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, so they're supposed to be like 13 when they graduate. So he was actually 17, and he was involved in a lot of gang-related stuff outside of the building. Actually, you were with me.
I was.
And put it this way, he would only show up the second year. The first year he would come to school here and there, and then I wouldn't really see him. He would cut out a lot. Back then, the security wasn't as strict, and the kid would walk out of the building if he wanted to, and, or he would do his own thing and never show up. The second year, I had him 3 and 4, and he would show up every day, period 3, and would stay only for my class, and would leave. And that's because I took 5 extra minutes to just sit down and say, hey, what's going on? Like, you need to do what you need to do. Like, you're 17 years old. And, I would have just a conversation with him. And, something even Rania was having issues with one of the kids, and I told her, just have a conversation. Sometimes just having a conversation with students can go a long way. And he actually graduated that year. He went to summer school, but he graduated, and he actually passed the math exam on his own. So, and he only went to school that whole year, 20 days. So in those 20 days that he actually was with me, he actually learned enough of the curriculum to be able to pass on his own. So you never know how you can actually impact a student. And, you're always going to have conversations. Like today I had a conversation with a girl in my 6th grade class about getting along with others. And I didn't yell at her, and I approached it differently. And I said to her, what happens when one child doesn't get along with many students and nobody wants to work with you? You know, I know you as a student, and I know like you just by looking at you. But if I wanted to be your friend, honestly, I wouldn't want to be your friend. And she said, I wouldn't want to be my friend either. And instead of her like lashing out and not wanting to talk to me and say, no, you have no idea what you're talking about, she actually took the conversation to heart and said that she will try harder to work with others. And it makes a big difference when you have a good relationship with the kids and they're able to talk to you.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what she said, give me this. All right. Just to piggyback off what she said, I have a student who is in her hip hop class who I was getting so frustrated with. I didn't know what to do. I was constantly just, why aren't you doing this? You should be doing this. Stay on task. And I just took literally 5 minutes out of my day to talk to him. And I do it at least twice a week, 3 times a week, whenever I can. He walks into my room now and just like, hey, Miss Judah, how are you? I'm doing good today. I just wanted to let you know. I was like, I'm so proud of you. You could do it every day. Some kids, and not actually, I take that back, all kids need constant positive reinforcement. As much as you want to just look at the kid and say, why are you doing this? Say, okay, this is fine for now, but let's try doing this. It's so important, and it's so beneficial for you and your relationship with that child that when they come to you, like during your lunch period or something, and they're like, oh, I just came by to say hi and I just wanted to tell you how my day was, it makes you feel good because you know that you're impacting that kid in a positive way. So yeah.
Okay. How do you control an unruly classroom?
You don't, no.
Just leave. You can't be boring, because if you're boring, your classroom will be crazy. And if you're not boring, you want your kids to be like, this teacher is crazy. Like, I'm a little crazy. I do the weirdest things in my classroom. But I don't have kids disrespecting each other, yelling at me, or getting up and walking out of their seat. They want to come to my class. They're just like, what kind of crazy things is she going to do today? Wish Money danced on Tuesday.
Oh.
Okay? Because the kid's cell phone rang, and he was like, oh my God, we're going to get, I was like, no, leave it. We can have a 30-second dance party. We had a 30-second dance party. And we got right back to doing what we needed to do.
It's true. Sometimes approaching the bad kids with negative ways, it's not always good. Like, I actually had a kid pull out a cell phone. Remember when we were younger, we had the Tamagotchis? Now they have some crazy app that has this little guy, I don't know, they take care of him. So he was like, no, I have to check it, he's gonna die. And I was like, okay, so let's check it, what is it? And I actually downloaded it myself, and now I check it myself. So sometimes just relating to things that they like, it makes a really big difference. And like, it helps that I teach hip hop at the school. So the kids know me as a dance teacher, and I'm fun, and they know that I teach math too, you have to incorporate different things into the classroom. It can't just be boring. You stand up there and you teach the whole time, because it's boring for you and it's boring for them. I've had 2 cases. I had one case my second year, they threw me in what's called a magnet class. And a magnet class is where all the kids in our school, it's the bottom third of our school in mathematics. It was 8th graders. They had it last period after lunch. They already had double period math for the day, and they had me to teach them more math because that's what they wanted. And all their other friends had magnets that were fun, like gym and dance and art, and they got stuck because of the state forced them to have a whole extra period of math. And I had 25 lovely children. And I have to say, every single one of them passed state exam that year, but it was rough, and there's going to be times where you have a class where it's very impossible, and I have a class this year that's actually very impossible. I see them once a week, and it's kind of hard in a once-a-week class to make rules, because by the time next week comes, it's a whole other new week. But if you try and you learn that every day is a new day and you don't go after them for something they did the day before, they will respect you for that. So even if you had a bad day today and tomorrow I go to work, it's like it never even happened. And you have to go like that too. You have to know that every day's a new day. So you can have a bad day today and tomorrow could be a whole brand new day. And Friday comes quick. And your weekend's coming.
Very important. And remember that every day is a new day.
Yeah.
Because I didn't, and I was holding kids accountable for things that they were doing wrong the whole week, and they hated it. You have to walk in fresh. Walk in fresh, right? Good? Okay. Walk in fresh, and just don't hold them accountable for anything. I mean, take that back. Walk in fresh. Don't criticize them for what they did yesterday of not being off task or fidgeting. Just remember that when you walk in that day, hey, Enrique, how are you doing today? Or hey, I don't know, what's going on? How's your day? Just let it be. Don't hold, because then you're going to get frustrated and the kid's going to get frustrated. And then it creates such a harsh environment for you, the two of you in your classroom.
In my school, every day we greet the kids and we shake their hands every morning. And, you know, there are some mornings where I'm just exhausted and I don't have a smile on my face. But when you put that smile on your face and you say good morning to them, you have to see their faces light up. And, like, that might be the only day that part of the day that someone says good morning to them. So just remembering that you're there for them. And I know sometimes it can be hard, but you just really have to remember that you're there for them.
Sometimes it's a school culture thing that you can't control, so that the one thing that you can look at when you have your meetings with your staff members is make that the priority, aside from all the academic goals. Making a positive environment throughout the school will really make a difference in the classroom. And getting teachers who are on board to have a better culture, whether that be, you know, shaking someone's hands in the morning, or whether that be, I have a teacher who gives her kids chill time. Sometimes they just sit and talk about, like, random things. She's also one of the crazy ones, so I don't know if I suggest that, but whatever. But also going to some of the veteran teachers and seeing what they did. I'll tell you one thing, yelling at kids, at least when you're 5'1" and 100 pounds, and with 12th grade, doesn't work. Sometimes it works, but you have to also remember some of these kids who are unruly in the classroom are unruly at home, and their parents yell at them and they shake it off. So you're not that intimidating. So I would advise against yelling, and sometimes when you're calm about the situation and you approach it, you know, in a positive way, or you approach it calmly and you let them know that you're not shaken up or deterred from your goal based on their behavior, it resonates with them and lets them know, okay, I might be playing around, but she means business. They eventually, if they look at their peers who are on board with the teacher, they eventually realize, oh snap, I really got to be paying attention here because this is important. So, I don't know. That's what I think.
How do you make sure you are asking every student questions and not just the ones that are raising their hands? Do you have any tricks?
In our school for the math department, we use what's called equity sticks, and you pretty much just like write every kid's name on a stick, and then you can pretty much pull it out of like a hat or a Ziploc bag or a cup. Another good thing, I actually showed one of my student teachers that she's currently a second-year teacher now. It's Class Dojo. It's a website, and you can actually do behavior points on there, and it actually, you can, it scrambles the kids' names, and the kids' names pop up on the smart board, and you can call on them that way. So the kids are always on their toes trying to, know what's going on.
I use Class Dojo also. One thing I do with my class is, since I have a lot of boys in my class, I throw a football around. They want to catch the ball, so they want to answer the question. So I say a question, call the kid's name, throw the football. He catches it, he answers it, throw it back. Everyone wants to catch the football, touch the football, so they just want to answer.
I make them tell each other the answer before they tell me, because my kids are sitting in groups, so at least one person in the group has to know the answer. They tell it to their friends are like, well, not their friends, but their group members. The group members get the gist of it a little bit, and then when you first ask a question, you have 4 hands up. After you give them a minute or two to talk to each other, you have 20 hands up, and then I don't really care who answers the question. I want to know that they know what I'm asking, personally.
Yeah, in math class these days, especially if you're becoming a math teacher, the answer is not important anymore. It's how you got there and why you got there and where it's leading you to afterwards.
Okay. What do you do with an argumentative student?
I have one of those. I don't want to say her name.
Well,
I let her win the first time. I let her win. I could, because I was like going tick to tack with her, and she wouldn't shut up, and the kids were like agreeing with her, so I'm like, all right, I gave it up. The next day I talked to her outside of class after school, and I basically approached her not as someone who's superior to her, but equal level. And I said, am I yelling at you? She said, no. Am I treating you disrespectful? She said, no. So if I'm talking to you like this is how you respond to me. And just talking to her on a normal level, treating her like my equal, not below me, by yelling at her, she came around to me. So every day in class, she's basically like my little secretary.
Yeah, they become
Like
best
she would
friends.
remind me if I didn't change the date, tell me something that's going on in the classroom. And I see that same teachers who have problems with, her name is Callie, the same teachers who have problems with her, when she argues back and forth with them, I told them, don't argue with her. Because you're going to win her over by just encouraging her, talking to her don't treat her like a student. I don't know why, but she does not like to be treated as a student. But if you treat her like your equal, she's going to come around to you. So sometimes you may have to just stoop down, like let go of that, I'm the teacher, you're the student. You got to remember they're a person too, even though they're smaller, sometimes maybe bigger, but they're still a person.
I mean, I agree with him definitely because being on the same level, so in my classroom, I mean, I have a small room, but I don't have a teacher's desk. I actually sit in with the U-shaped tables with kids. So, like, it makes them feel like you're one of them. And, you know, they know when I mean business and when I stand up in the room and I have to teach, they know I got to teach and I got to get through the lesson. But, you know, it's good to have that relationship with them. And if you don't have a good relationship with them, the year is going to be the worst year you ever had. And with an argumentative kid, like, if you get them on your side and to be your best friend or whatever you need them to do, or, you know, giving them a job, you know, they need to feel powerful. And if they feel powerful, then you have got your year down packed and you got nothing to worry about.
I agree with what everyone just said so far. There's always going to be a kid who wants to argue with you. They need to know you're human. You go home, you watch TV, you hang out with your friends the same way they do. You're not up here. You're both here. No matter what you think, you're never going to make it if you think you're above them. So they try to argue with you in class. We're not going to talk about this right now. We have more important things to do. We'll talk about it after class. After class comes, I need your help with this because I can tell that you're a leader, and right now you're not leading the class in the right direction, but everyone looks up to you. They want to be popular. That's why they're arguing with you. Let them think that they're popular, but give them a positive reason to do so.
So this is in regards to our program here at SFC. We'd like to know if you have any suggestions about how we can improve the program, the education program, based on your experiences as an educator.
I'd like to just add to that, anything that we didn't do to prepare you, that we could have done a better job.
I always just felt like we could have had more like lesson plans or
You mean lesson delivery, maybe?
yeah
In class?
yeah like things like that, and just more like things that we would actually do in the classroom. Like I taught here at St. Francis for a couple semesters, and I always just tried to give the kids students like things that I've done in the classroom, just more ideas of what you might be doing. Not necessarily that they'll be doing that, but that's always something that I feel could have been more beneficial.
I mean, something that I know, I had 2 students from St. Francis last year that came in to do like a math class, and I think that was really good for them because they actually got to see the classroom and do more of hands-on, which is something I wish I would have had more of. Like, I felt like when I walked in, I learned a lot here, but I felt more blind of the reality, right? So like the actual writing of the lesson plans and the actual like lesson deliveries and all of the fancy words that I spit out before to you that nobody knew what I was talking about, and maybe more hands-on with people who are actually in the job now. So like, it's great that we're sitting here, but maybe having more of us come in and giving some like stuff from our classroom that we can help them with. Like, I know all of us would be glad to help out. We're here. So like, maybe more of that, maybe more of relationships with us, not just one night of listening to us talk the whole time.
I think, well, I work in the secondary level, so I think maybe a little bit more classroom management scenarios, just because, I mean, I've gotten cursed at, everything. When I went into teaching, I wasn't expecting all of that, and at times you don't know, when it first happens to you, you don't know how to react to it, what is the proper procedure, to do. I mean, you learn as you go along, but I think maybe it's something I wish I would have been emphasized a little bit more.
So it sounds like more practical experience.
Yeah.
To teach classes and
For me, what it was classroom management, because I'm, if you haven't noticed, very to myself. Especially with my kids, I play around with my kids, but when someone walks in, it's like a whole different person. I'm quiet. Except for this one, I'm quiet. I don't really stay out of my room. I'm very to like the couple of people that are in my department. It would be classroom management skills. And one other thing is, once you start your first year only, knowing what you have to do. So like the health insurance, how do you have to go about that? Like just the paperwork, because that really threw me off. That was the one thing that I was a little crazy about.
I'd like to see some more content translated into the academic setting. So I think one way I was unprepared was I had all these English classes that I had to take. It is 30-something credits. But there wasn't, the one class I had, as a matter of fact, it was just Dr. Leibman and myself. I was the only, in my graduating class, I was the only one who got the degree with adolescent ed in English. And we only had one, I mean, granted, I was the only student, so of course I did all my homework and I paid attention because it was just he and I. But I would have liked to have more than one class where the content, your content specialty, whatever that may be, and the classroom practice is somehow connected, so that maybe, as the program grows, maybe all the adolescent ed math people can focusing only on teaching math in the classroom. The adolescent ed English people could work on teaching English in a secondary setting, and so forth. I mean, that's something, when the program grows, and it's already growing, hopefully there can be some breakup there, because sometimes when I was listening to Christina teach math, I had no idea what was going on, and I didn't always, sometimes I learned something, but sometimes I'm like, okay, when's the English teacher coming? And I was the only one, so I didn't learn anything except for what Dr. Leibman showed me. Meaning, so I felt like in St. Francis we had our education classes, and then we had our content classes, and sometimes what was going on in the education classes didn't always translate into our content.
Yeah,
So I was in an ELA class in St. Francis. I took 30-something credits, but there was only one class in St. Francis, which was the one I took with solely myself and Dr. Leibman, where it was teaching ELA in a secondary setting.
Yeah, so I can piggyback on that. So I only had the math class with Clementi, I don't even know. I don't even remember, it's been so long. But the class was also very philosophical. It wasn't actually really applications. So, and not that I didn't learn anything from it, but what I learned from it didn't really help in the classroom self. And also going off of the math classes I had here, it didn't really help in the classroom either. So the calculus and the advanced calculus and everything else that I took didn't even help me on the CST either. So yeah, it didn't, because the CST is only up to calculus, and I went beyond calculus, and that was my first class. So the CST is based off of the middle school and high school curriculum, and when you come into the school and you're advanced in that subject, you go way beyond that subject, and you forget all of the stuff that you actually need to teach. So nothing that we were doing here was the curriculum that is going on actually in middle school and high school. So doing more of math education would be better than doing just math. So I think that's what she's getting at, doing more ELA education. So, and the mixture of the classes too. Jessica and I had Dr. Giaprento's class together also, and the reading class was good, but I think having childhood and adolescent mixed together wasn't beneficial for us. Making sure that all those classes are split, because I think he could have went into more of a literacy aspect on the adolescent end, but because there was more childhood students there, it was very geared towards childhood. Mm-hmm. So making sure that if you're a childhood and that's what you want to do, that's what your classes are geared on, and if you're adolescent, they're adolescent-based.
And I agree with them, both of them. And one thing I think a lot of administration is big on is student-centered lessons.
Yeah.
And that's like pretty hard for me with, especially with social studies, because you learn the content here, like you learn the Declaration of Independence. Now, how can you get those kids to learn the Declaration of Independence? That's two different ball games. So, just to learn some methods on how to make, because they want the kids discovering it themselves, and to me, that's completely impossible. How can they discover this if I'm not teaching it? But they want you to do that. So methods on how to do that, that would be very helpful, because that's what we're doing every single day, trying to get them to discover it.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think one thing I didn't really learn here that I learned working was developing curriculum. So the first year I started in my job, they were like, Common Core is coming, we're not getting new textbooks. Here's what you can work with. And I was like, what? And then the second year, we got the CMP3, what the city recommended for math. As a school, we didn't like it. Last summer, we sat as a math department, and my school's really small. We only have 6 people in our math department, I think including my AP. We sat for July and August, and we wrote out the entire 6th, 7th, and 8th grade curriculum. I don't know, I just think it'd be helpful, not even a cause about writing curriculum, but reading it, like what does it really mean? How are you using a pacing calendar? How are you working this out? How are you making it, what is that word? Aligned throughout the school, the grade levels?
Actually planning units.
Yeah. Units, whole units.
Basically, give them as much work as possible.
Can I say that again?
Give them as much work as possible. They're never gonna want us back.
And incorporating more technology. I mean, I graduated also 5 years ago, so I don't know the newbies, but
Oh, yeah.
They implemented I know here, a technology class. I know
Yeah, it's
Dr.
recent.
Gare
Yeah,
had
it's recent.
hers, so.
but yeah, definitely like more technology because everything is technology based now.
I'm running a blog with 2 classes. It's like Facebook. It's crazy. So
That's cool.
you're gonna need know how to use these new programs, all this stuff. You got to be tech savvy. Every room got a smart board. So just know how to use.
Yeah, knowing how to use all the technology to its fullest.
I think for math, I mean, maybe you too, I have no idea how to work with manipulatives at all.
yeah.
I really wish it's something I would have learned here. I have no idea. Like, I can't, I give them fraction trials, I'm like, here you go. Enjoy.
Yeah,
This is like your
definitely
Lego set.
finding other ways to, visuals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
That would be really helpful.
Especially what she said with the English. I was childhood education, and I took all these English classes on Shakespeare and all these authors, women. Not that it wasn't, it was, I mean, I liked the classes, but I always felt like I'm going into childhood ed, and I'm never going to use this towards my children. I mean, so I thought maybe if like there was a class like with,
Nursery rhyme.
yes, like teaching about like younger things, and not that I didn't know how to do like read aloud, and like with Dr. G, I was in many classes with reading instruction, but just more of like English classes devoted to younger literature, something like that, instead of taking Shakespeare and women's authors and all these books, and that I'm probably never going, except if I take more college credits or see again. So I think stuff like that, I think I can relate to, just maybe more towards, books that I'm going to teach in ELA, and how that then can relate to planning with a lesson, and, just stuff I would say like that.
And I think even the teachers that are teaching should be more up to date of what's going on now in like the school buildings, because like back when I had my math education teacher, I mean, he was a great teacher, but the reality is what he knew wasn't going on in the buildings now. So like there's been a lot of changes since I've been here versus even being in the building.
But I had D'Angelo as my math methods teacher.
Oh yeah.
So that's the principal there, so that was good. Good job.
Yeah, that's extremely beneficial.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe for the field experience portion, maybe having like doing them, I know like you don't require them to do, but I always told my kids when I taught here at St. Francis, like try to teach a lesson, like have the projects maybe more geared towards delivering a lesson or doing a lesson plan format kind of thing, and working with the kids more.
Can I ask a question? Thank you so much for your honesty.
Okay. How far in advance is it realistic to plan lessons?
So in my school, and especially in the school of one, the way it works is that you don't actually know what you're teaching until 4 o'clock, almost 7 p.m. that day. So for us, when we were first starting, you had to adapt to knowing how to make lessons at 7 p.m. at night. But now being in my own classroom, I guess I've been so used to doing that I kind of plan the night before. But I'm also the type of person that like can go with the flow and can just figure it out and kind of like wing it, but obviously the correct way. So for me, I plan my lessons the night before. But I know for a lot of teachers, sometimes planning earlier ahead of time is usually easier to be, like, to have a life.
Yeah, that's something I do. I give myself a couple of hours I was just telling on the way here, Saturday morning until 1 o'clock, no matter what time I wake up, that's my planning time. And I usually get the whole week done in that time, so it's perfect. But she's better. I can't.
And you have to be realistic because you never know the school you're going to end up in. You might need copies for a lesson, and if you're planning the night before and you come in that morning and you need copies, you might not get them.
Yeah.
So there's just things you got to be cognizant about around your building, and once you get there, you'll see.
It also depends on your content. Like, I don't know if anyone's a social studies teacher and know it. Okay, we have it kind of easy because it's a sequence, so you always know what's coming next. So you know what to plan for. You just have to know what activities you need to do.
Okay. The next question is, are you planning your lessons for the year off of the school's curriculum?
I am, because I wrote my curriculum, so I don't know about anyone else. I made my own. Well, and then gave it to the rest of the 6th grade.
So what happened in my school is after we found out that our English language learners weren't doing well in the School of One program because they needed some more support, I actually sat with my coworker and we actually picked out a whole new textbook that was Common Core Lines that my principal like allowed us to kind of be free and kind of like develop this whole program. So now, after using it last year, we actually had an increase of students. So we went from like 800 or 900 students to 1,300 students, and we took a class of 600 kids this year in 6th grade. And we actually, because we were overpacked in the School of One, we now have like 10 classes out of the School of One, and we actually used a curriculum that I decided to use with my L's throughout the whole building. That's not in the math technology base.
The best thing about ELA is there kind of are no rules. So you could do anything, and as long as it is ELA related, and you could do cross-disciplinary things. So maybe sometimes taking a step back from your curriculum or the ELA department curriculum, it may be a good idea, and consulting with the other content areas. Like one of the best assignments I ever had, you'd appreciate this, is I did an essay. I gave kids an essay with the history teacher because they were doing really poorly on the global regions. So we did an anti-federalist, federalist. Yeah, it was crazy trying to understand that assignment, and it was completely just like off the cuff. Hey, let's just do this, see what happens, and it worked out really well. So it's great to follow. It really depends on your administration, I think. If your admin is like, hey, this is your curriculum, follow it, then hey, do that, especially as a new teacher. But if it's not that way, and if you see that the kids aren't learning from, hey, let's plan out this entire curriculum and you know, I have to follow it every single day. If that doesn't work, then you can stray away from that. As long as you justify your reason for doing it, like the kids learn better when I incorporate social studies in ELA, I don't see that being an issue. So, I mean, play by the rules, but know when to break them also, or when to stray from them, because sometimes those wind up being the best learning experiences. Like I said, the Socratic discussion thing was my best lesson ever. And, you know, from the standards that we read all the time, having the students talk all period and present their own findings may not be what the curriculum says you're supposed to do in a 15-minute block, but it worked, and I think it was a great experience. So yeah, follow it, but know also when to, like, change things up, because that gets boring.
I have we use a reading program in my school called Super Kids, and it's like, I like it. I'm not it was hard to get used to at first because everything is so laid out and they like you to follow it because it is aligned with the standards. But I think the kids love it because it starts at pre-K and they get it from pre-K to kindergarten to first grade, and then it ends in they have it through second grade, and then third grade's where it stops. So the program is basically kids who are basically teaching the kids ELA, so they love it because its songs are incorporated, there's characters, there's, maps and stickers, and there's just a lot of things. So they like it. It took me a little bit to get used to, like such a scripted program. But, I mean, they like it, so I if they like it, I like it, so. I deviate from it, but my principal really likes that we follow it because they're used to it. They have it in pre-K, they have it in kindergarten, so she does like us to stay with it, and the program gives me a lot of resources. So I have like a CD, and they give me everything, books, all instructional material, so I don't, maybe if I use another graphic organizer here or there, I use chart paper to deliver it a certain way, but for the most part, the program, they give me all the material, so.
And also for this city has Engage New York that I mentioned before. It is very much scripted for primarily English and math, but they're starting to open up those doors for social studies and science as well. And it's literally like it's a whole entire curriculum. Depending on the grade level and depending on the subject area, it's in development, and they give you everything that you need. But I don't follow it, so you might like it.
Our network has scripted lessons for writing and reading, and we have a program we use for phonics, but we tend to deviate from it. But it's nice to kind of just look at it, read through it, get some ideas for it. But I'm lucky my principal is not too harsh on it, and if you don't follow the script, it's not a big deal.
I think what we'll do is go with one more question, and then informally, we have coffee and donuts outside.
Yay.
Donuts. So, you'll have a chance to ask anybody a question informally. So, last question.
This is for the new teachers.
Oh, good.
Describe your first day teaching altogether. Did you plan lessons in advance? Did anything occur that you did not prepare yourself for?
Got the look.
My first day, well, we had like the first 3 days. So for the most part, I planned, but it was basically like I have first grade, so I did icebreaker games, and I did, I remember I gave them a worksheet. Basically, it was a robot, and it was like about me kind of thing, like my name is, my favorite color is, simple stuff. I mean, they're just out of kindergarten. So I didn't do any Common Core curriculum-based anything. I just did, icebreakers and what's your name and games and songs, and for the first 3 days. I think Monday, then we started getting into the routine, giving books are given out, and especially with the younger grades, books and medicals, and there's so many forms that have to go the first 3 days, so it was such a whirlwind, especially. But for the first 3 days, I basically I had to get to know them. I did a lot of asking the kindergarten teacher too, how is this kid, because I didn't know, I was a new kid on the block. But for the most part, I just did, the first 3 days were basically just, normal routines, giving out books, icebreaker games, songs, establishing my routine of like what I'm going to do in the beginning of the day, especially in first grade. They still sometimes don't know the days of the week. They don't know January, February, March. They don't know that in order. So I do songs in the morning. So I taught them that, a prayer, the pledge, what to do. So just establishing your routine from the very moment I did that, and just getting to know them. That's what I did.
Like Rose said, in my first 3 days, it's not even 3 days, the first month, the students are learning you. So basically, they're learning your routines. Each teacher has a style. So they're coming from one teacher with a certain style. Now they're learning a whole nother style. So it's good to talk to the teacher they had before and learn the methods that they use. So you can incorporate some of those into your classroom because they just fall into place. They know it and it works for them. So like for the whole month, I was just putting in routines, reminding them this is what you do. Homework goes to the right side of the desk, not shoving it in front of my face. Just telling them certain things over and over and over again for that whole month. It's not really about content. It's about you, and administration knows that. They're not going to pop in the first month, so don't panic about that. Establish your rules, how the classroom is governed is on you. That's your kingdom. you want to set that up. And I remember for the first, like it was just last month, but I was forcing that in. Like just making sure that they knew that this is my system. You line up in front of the door. I say good morning to you. If you don't say good morning back, I'm going to repeat myself over and over until I hear you. And then you come into the classroom. And you just keep doing that over and over and over again for that first month.
Just know your routines don't work after one day. So like if it doesn't work day 1, give it till like day 30 before you decide to throw it out the window, because if you throw too many things at them, they're going to be very confused. You have to slowly give some of the things little by little. So, I mean, a quote that like our AP always has, like for us, is if your kids don't know their routines first, your whole year is destroyed. So until you get those routines in place, the curriculum means nothing.
I think for me, I'm gonna steal this real quick. Thanks. For me, the first 2 days was them actually getting to know me. So I had this like really cute picture of me on the like a little stick figure, and then it was like questions all around about me, but they were math questions. So like, how old am I? I didn't tell them my real age. I put like 100 plus 32 plus 5 divided by 2, whatever, and they would like figure it out. And it really got them going because they actually got excited to actually do math because they were getting to know me. That was my first 2 days. And the first week, first couple of days was like getting to know our routines. And then like he said, first month, till now, I'm still reminding them, okay, walk in, make sure you get your bag, you make sure you put your homework in the basket. The first week though was me getting to know them. You need to set aside time to know them because it's not going to happen in a day. You're not going to be like, oh, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm this old, I don't like math. It's not going to work. You constantly are going to end up learning from your kids and vice versa. So that was my first week.
Okay.
How about a round of applause for our panelists? I have got to tell you, I know that you guys were working all day today, you're tired, it's a long day. I can't thank you enough for coming. Dr. G and I were saying,